Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so today we're jumping right into a really critical moment in the Civil War, spring of 1862.
Yeah, a pressure cooker, really. High stakes everywhere you look.
Exactly. And we're exploring this pivotal time using Doris Kearns Goodwin's fantastic book, Team of Rivals, as our guide. You got to picture the Union here. They've got this huge army, loads of resources, but, well,
Things are stalled,
yeah,
completely stuck,
mm,
and frustration is just boiling over, not just in public, but right at the top.
that's it. So our mission today is to unpack the really complex challenges President Lincoln was facing. Not just the battles, but the battles within his own administration, his cabinet, his generals.
Mm.
We'll look at how his leadership style was changing, these clashing personalities, and some frankly surprising events that really steered the Union forward. We want you to get why this period was so absolutely crucial.
And it's those personalities that make it so compelling, right? You've got Lincoln, still relatively new to being commander-in-chief
Yeah.
and dealing with this awful personal tragedy.
Yeah, Willie's death.
Right. Then there's General George McClellan commanding the main army, the Army of the Potomac.
Right.
Very ambitious, maybe too ambitious, but also famously cautious.
We're hesitant, yeah.
Then the new Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton, fiery, intense. Simmon Chase at Treasury, smart, capable, but definitely eyeing the presidency himself.
Always.
And you have others like William Seward at State, Montgomery Blair as Postmaster General. They all have their own views, their own agendas. These aren't just historical figures. They're people under immense pressure trying to build some kind of working coalition.
It kicks off in a really somber way, doesn't it? With that personal tragedy, you mentioned the death of Lincoln's son, Willie, in February 62.
A terrible blow to the family. And McClellan actually sent Lincoln this note expressing sympathy.
A heartfelt note, apparently. But also kind of assured Lincoln not to worry about the army, that he had it handled.
Which sounds supportive, but then you look at the bigger picture.
Exactly. Because despite those assurances, McClellan's massive Army of the Potomac, it had been sitting idle for months. Months. This inaction wasn't just a military headache. It was becoming a huge political problem.
A crisis, really. And it wasn't happening in a vacuum. What was the political climate like then?
Well, Congress had just set up this new Joint Committee on the Conduct of the War,
Ah, yes, the committee.
dominated by radical Republicans like Ben Wade and George Julian. And they despised McClellan. They hated his caution, his conservatism, especially on slavery. They wanted action. Now.
And McClellan falling ill with typhoid late in 61 just made things worse, fueled all sorts of suspicions.
Right. Goodwin points out this incredible cabinet meeting where Congressman Julian basically says, look, nobody, not even the president, seems to know what McClellan's plans actually are.
And Lincoln's initial reaction is staggering. He basically says, I have no right to know. He's deferring completely to his general.
It's hard to imagine now, isn't it? But that's where someone like Edward Bates, the Attorney General, steps in. He's more conservative, but he pushes back hard. What did he say?
He tells Lincoln, you have to take command. You need to organize a staff commander-in-chief,
Yeah.
someone to command the commanders, essentially be the boss.
And this really hits Lincoln.
It seems to. He starts borrowing military strategy books. He even tells a friend, maybe half jokingly, maybe not, that he's thinking of taking the field himself.
Wow.
And he has that famous line to General Meigs, the bottom is out of the tub, meaning, time's up, money's running out, the public is demanding results, the pressure is immense.
So finally, Lincoln acts. His patience just runs out. January 27th, 1862, he issues General War Order Number 1.
Setting a deadline,
Mm.
February 22nd, Washington's birthday.
Right, for a general movement of the land and naval forces. His idea was, look, we have more men, let's hit them everywhere at once.
Which makes sense. But this forces McClellan's hand. He has to present his plan.
Which is the Peninsula Campaign. Sail the troops down the coast to Fort Monroe near Hampton Roads, and then march up the peninsula towards Richmond.
Yeah, rather than the direct overland route through Manassas that Lincoln and Stanton and General McDowell actually favored.
Why did they prefer the overland route?
Well, primarily because it kept the army between the Confederates and Washington, D.C. Protecting the capital was paramount.
So Lincoln's hesitant about McClellan's plan.
Very. But he eventually agrees, reluctantly. However, he attaches a crucial condition in writing.
What was that?
That McClellan absolutely must leave a sufficient force behind to protect Washington. This wasn't just about protecting buildings. It was about preventing the Confederacy from capturing the capital, which could have triggered foreign recognition. A game changer.
Okay, so the plan is set. The deadline is February 22nd.
Nothing happens. The deadline passes. No movement.
Which must have driven Stanton, the new war secretary, crazy.
Absolutely. Goodwin notes he started out as a real friend and supporter of McClellan, but that faded fast. He had that great line about needing to stop the champagne and oysters on the Potomac, right? A direct hit at McClellan's headquarters social life while the war stalled.
Stanton sounds like a guy who didn't suffer fools gladly. Or arrogant generals.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
There's that story where McClellan keeps him and Lincoln waiting for an hour. Stanton supposedly fumes, "That will be the last time General McClellan will give either myself or the president the waiting snub."
And he follows through.
Oh, yeah. He orders the military telegraph office moved from McClellan's headquarters straight into the War Department, right next to his own office.
Ouch. Direct control.
Total control over communications.
Gay.
McClellan saw it rightly as a major humiliation. Power shifting right there.
So McClellan finally gets the army moving in early March towards Manassas, where the Confederates had been dug in.
Right. He leads his massive force out, only to find the Confederates are gone. They'd already pulled back.
And those supposedly impregnable fortifications.
Wooden logs, painted black to look like cannons from a distance. The famous Quaker gun affair.
Oh, the embarrassment. That must have been brutal politically.
Fury, especially among the radicals. Senator Fessenden is quoted saying, "We shall be the scorn of the world." And that bitter line, "We went in for a rail splitter, and we have got one." Just scathing criticism aimed at Lincoln, too.
So the Committee on the Conduct of the War demands McClellan be fired, right?
They do. But Lincoln's response is so telling. He says, "Anybody will do for you, but not for me. I must have somebody." He knows he needs effective command, not just any commander. Still pragmatic even then.
But he does act. March 11th, he relieves McClellan as the overall general-in-chief.
Correct. McClellan keeps command of the Army of the Potomac for the Peninsula Campaign, but he's no longer top dog.
And Lincoln also brings back General Fremont. That seems significant.
Huge. He puts Fremont in charge of a new mountain department. Fremont was a radical favorite, the guy who'd issued an emancipation order in Missouri earlier that Lincoln had revoked. So bringing him back, that pleased the radicals immensely.
How did McClellan take the news of his demotion?
He read about it in the newspapers. Furious, felt completely slighted.
Now, Lincoln must have known demoting McClellan and appointing Fremont would cause waves, especially with McClellan's allies.
Well, absolutely, especially the Blair family. Very powerful, very conservative, very pro-McClellan. Montgomery Blair, the Postmaster General, thought Fremont's appointment was unpalatable.
Understatement of the year, probably.
And his brother, Frank Blair, a congressman, just unleashes this blistering attack on Fremont in the House. Real fireworks.
So how does Lincoln manage this? He's got this deep division right in his inner circle.
This is classic Lincoln, showcasing that political genius Goodwin talks about. Just days before he appoints Fremont, Monty Blair gets into hot water. A private letter he wrote criticizing Lincoln somehow got published.
Oh, dear.
Blair is mortified, offers his resignation, but Lincoln just brushes it off, tells him, "Forget it, never mention or think of it again."
Wow. That's magnanimity.
Exactly. And what does it do? It cements Blair's loyalty. So even though Blair dislikes the Fremont appointment, he understands why Lincoln is doing it to try and manage these factions to keep the coalition together. Lincoln played the long game.
Meanwhile, you have Secretary of State Seward kind of navigating these currents.
Yeah, Seward's interesting. The radicals saw him as too conservative, maybe holding Lincoln back. But Seward saw his role as trying to mediate, to mollify and moderate between the hardline Republicans pushing for abolition and the more conservative Democrats focused solely on restoring the Union.
Did he still trust Lincoln through all this?
Apparently so. He called Lincoln wise and practical, even while privately he was losing faith in McClellan just like everyone else.
So the Peninsula Campaign is underway, but Lincoln's doubts about McClellan are clearly growing.
Definitely. He made that wry comment about McClellan being a great engineer but having a special talent for developing a stationary engine, just stuck in place.
A very Lincoln way of putting it.
He saw McClellan hesitated right when it was time for action. So Lincoln finally gives him peremptory orders to move. Basically, get going now.
And McClellan's huge army finally set sail for Fort Monroe, a massive undertaking.
It was. But then Stanton discovers something alarming.
What was that?
McClellan has disobeyed that direct written order about leaving Washington secure. He left fewer than 20,000 troops, mostly raw recruits. The capital was vulnerable.
So Lincoln reacts immediately.
At midnight, no less. He orders General McDowell's entire First Corps, a huge chunk of troops, detached from McClellan's command and held back to defend Washington.
Which must have infuriated McClellan.
Absolutely provoked his wrath, as Goodwin puts it. But Lincoln had to protect the capital. So McClellan lands on the peninsula, advances towards Yorktown, which is only about 50 miles from the Confederate capital, Richmond.
Getting close.
But then he stops. Again, digs in, starts siege preparations. He's convinced the Confederates outnumber him massively, which wasn't true.
It's the same pattern. Delay, overestimate the enemy.
Lincoln is beside himself. He telegraphs McClellan, pleads with him to break the enemy's line at once. He warns him, the country will not fail to note that the present hesitation is but the story of Manassas repeated.
Strong words from the president. How does McClellan react?
Scornfully. He writes to his wife that if Lincoln wants the enemy line broken so badly, he had better come and do it himself. Just incredible insubordination, really.
While all this military drama is unfolding, there's a whole social and political scene playing out back in Washington.
Right. With Mary Lincoln in mourning after Willie's death, the White House social scene is quiet. And Kate Chase, daughter of Treasury Secretary Salmon Chase, sees an opening.
What does she do?
She basically sets up a rival court, these lavish breakfast parties, Wednesday evening dinners. They become the place for critics of Lincoln and McClellan to gather, to vent, to strategize.
So parlor politics, but with real intent.
Absolutely deliberate. It's all about boosting her father's profile, positioning him as the alternative to Lincoln for the presidency. It's creating this center of opposition right within the administration's social circles.
Then comes another flashpoint over slavery in early May. General David Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter, commanding troops down in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, issues an order freeing all the slaves in his department without clearing it with anyone in Washington.
And Chase's circle, the radicals, must have been thrilled.
Ecstatic. They saw it as progress, forcing the issue of emancipation, but Lincoln's reaction was immediate and firm.
What did he say?
Swift and blunt, as Goodwin describes it. He says, "No commanding general shall do such a thing upon my responsibility without consulting me." He revokes Hunter's order right away.
Why? Isn't Lincoln moving towards emancipation himself?
He was, personally. But this raises that crucial point about timing and authority. Lincoln believed he, as commander-in-chief, had to make that decision, and only when it served the primary goal of preserving the Union. He couldn't have generals making policy like that. It could fracture the country further, alienate border states.
So it was about strategy and unity, not necessarily opposing the idea itself.
Exactly. But Chase didn't see it that way, or chose not to. He publicly criticized Lincoln's decision, feeding the narrative among radicals that Lincoln was weak or pusillanimous.
And Lincoln just keeps Chase in the cabinet.
Remarkable, isn't it? It shows Lincoln's incredible tolerance, his understanding that he needed Chase's financial skills, and maybe needed to keep potential rivals close. Incredible political calculation.
Okay, so McClellan is stalled near Yorktown. Lincoln is frustrated. What happens next?
Lincoln decides he needs to see things for himself. First week of May, he gets on the Treasury cutter, the Miami, along with Stanton and Chase, of all people.
Rivals on a boat trip? Must have been cozy.
And General Veal, too. They sail down to Fort Monroe. Goodwin includes these great little anecdotes from the trip, Lincoln reciting Shakespeare, telling stories.
Trying to lighten the mood.
Maybe. There's also that bit where he apparently holds an axe out at arm's length to show his strength. Just these human moments amidst the massive weight of the war.
What was the immediate military issue when they got there?
The Merrimac, the Confederate ironclad. It had caused havoc earlier, though the Union's own ironclad, the Monitor, that cheese box on a raft, had fought it to a standstill in that famous battle.
Right, the birth of ironclad warfare.
But the Merrimac was still a threat, bottling up the Union Navy in Hampton Roads and preventing a move up the James River towards Richmond, and it protected nearby Norfolk.
So Lincoln gets involved directly.
This is where you really see Lincoln step up as commander-in-chief. He's looking at the maps with his team, and they just can't figure out why McClellan hasn't taken Norfolk yet. It seems vulnerable.
So what does Lincoln do?
He, Chase, and Stanton get in a rowboat, under a full moon, mind you, and go ashore themselves to scout possible landing spots near Norfolk on enemy territory.
The president himself. Scouting landings.
Taking personal initiative. It's an incredible image of leadership.
And does it work?
It does. They coordinate a plan. Union guns shell the Confederate positions, troops land based on the scouting, and the Confederates pull out. They abandon Norfolk and, crucially, They scuttled the Merrimack so the Union can't capture it.
What's news?
Huge. The message reaches Lincoln and Stanton after midnight. Norfolk is ours. Goodwin recounts this hilarious scene. Stanton, woken up, bursts into the room in his long nightgown.
Ah, you can picture it.
He's so overjoyed he grabs General Wool, who brought the news, and hugs him, apparently lifting the older general right off the floor. Lincoln found it pretty funny, but said everyone was just too excited to worry about appearances.
Even Chase was impressed. He was usually so critical.
Yes. Chase apparently expressed more admiration for Lincoln in that moment than ever before or after, giving the president full credit for the Norfolk victory.
And McClellan. Did he give Lincoln credit?
What do you think?
Probably not.
Not a chance. He writes to his wife, "Norfolk is in our possession, the result of my movements. Took all the credit himself. Unbelievable."
So Norfolk falls, the Merrimack is gone. This should open things up for McClellan, right?
You'd think so. Seward and Bates even visit McClellan, who assures them victory near Richmond is imminent. Lincoln agrees to send McDowell's corps, which had been held back, to finally reinforce him.
Okay, so things are looking up.
For a moment, but then Stonewall Jackson happens.
Ah, Jackson's Valley Campaign.
Exactly. Jackson launches this brilliant, fast-moving campaign in the Shenandoah Valley, creating panic in Washington. It looks like he might threaten the capital.
So Lincoln has to react.
He does. He diverts McDowell's corps again, sending them after Jackson instead of reinforcing McClellan. Protecting Washington had to come first.
Was that the right call, strategically?
It's debated. Historian James McPherson calls it probably a strategic error, maybe even a colossal blunder, because it denied McClellan crucial reinforcements right when he needed them.
But
McPherson adds, even if McDowell had joined him, based on McClellan's track record, there's little reason to think he would have suddenly acted decisively to take Richmond. McClellan's own caution was probably the bigger factor.
So McClellan remains stalled outside Richmond. End of May, he's only 4 miles away.
4 miles, and still making excuses. Then the Confederates attack him at the Battle of Fair Oaks or Seven Pines. It's a bloody, inconclusive battle.
How does McClellan react to being attacked?
Goodwin suggests he was psychologically defeated. His list of complaints becomes endless. The roads are bad, the bridges are out, he needs more troops, he needs total control. It's always something.
He even worried about his own safety.
Yeah, he wrote to his wife, "I must not unnecessarily risk my life, for the fate of my army depends upon me," which sounds less than heroic.
And this delay gives the Confederates time to regroup under a new commander.
Robert E. Lee. He takes command and immediately goes on the offensive, launching the 7 days battles in late June.
A brutal series of engagements.
Very brutal. And McClellan, despite still having superior numbers on paper, is consistently outmaneuvered and convinced he's outnumbered. He starts retreating.
And blaming Washington, naturally.
Oh, spectacularly. He sends this infamous telegram to Stanton. It was so insubordinate that the telegraph operators actually softened the language before passing it on.
What did it originally say?
Things like, "I have lost this battle because my force was too small. I am not responsible for this." And the kicker, "If I save this army now, I tell you plainly that I owe no thanks to you or to any other persons in Washington. You have done your best to sacrifice this army."
Wow. Accusing the president and War Department of deliberately sacrificing his army.
It's breathtaking arrogance and insubordination, and it marks the effective end of the campaign.
So the Peninsula Campaign ends not with the capture of Richmond, but with McClellan retreating.
Retreating to Harrison's Landing on the James River, under the protection of Union gunboats, Richmond was secure for the Confederates. The Union wouldn't get that close again for almost 3 long, bloody years.
A really bitter outcome after so much hope and effort.
A stark lesson, wasn't it? About leadership, about command, about the devastating human cost of indecision and delay in war.
Absolutely. What a period. Looking back over these few months, spring 1862, what really stands out?
Well, you certainly see Lincoln's evolution as a leader, don't you? He goes from that initial, almost shocking deference to McClellan.
I have no right to know.
Right. To issuing direct orders, to intervening personally at Norfolk, to making those tough calls about troop movements, even when unpopular, and all while managing these incredibly difficult personalities in his cabinet.
That team of rivals, he's juggling Chase's ambitions, Stanton's intensity, Seward's diplomacy, Blair's conservatism.
It's a masterclass in political maneuvering, keeping that coalition together even as they're fighting amongst themselves. And then you see the flip side. The immense challenge of finding effective military command, embodied by McClellan's failures. The caution, the excuses, the catastrophic consequences of not seizing the moment.
So if we step back and think about the bigger picture from this deep dive.
I think it shows that leadership, particularly in a crisis like the Civil War, isn't just about having the right grand strategy on paper. It's so much about managing people, understanding egos and ambitions, building alliances, knowing when to be patient.
And knowing when to finally put your foot down, like Lincoln eventually did.
Exactly. And maybe here's a thought to leave folks with. How much are these major turning points in history really driven, not just by plans or resources, but by the individual character, the strengths, the weaknesses, the anxieties, the political smarts of the people right at the very top? Like Lincoln grappling with all this in 1862,
Yes.
something to definitely mull over.